We often learn from the protagonist of a story, but I've been curious recently about the antagonist. Biblically, the protagonist is Jesus, and the antagonist is sin. Sometimes people think the first sin was committed in the Garden of Eden, but actually, the first sin was committed in heaven. It was from Lucifer's pride, which is one of the 7 deadly sins. Pride can also be known as a group of lions forming a social unit. But in this context, regarding Lucifer, pride is a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements. You see, the story of Lucifer is that he became prideful of his good looks, his status, and his power. There were multiple high-ranking angels in heaven, but Lucifer is depicted as God's most beautiful and perfect creation. Lucifer's pride led him to think he could be equal or even better than God. This disrupted the divine order in heaven and caused Lucifer to be cast out of heaven, taking a third of heaven's angels with him. Recently, I've been trying to empathize with Lucifer's story. I too have challenged order through my desire of wanting things to be better. I was at multiple basketball organizations, and in many of them, I had a falling out with the leader because I had become prideful regarding my coaching experience and potential. My pride led me to decline a 6-figure coaching offer, and it caused me to push my own agenda against the wishes of the leader. Looking back, I can see that I wanted the leaders to serve me and my ambitions instead of me serving their business. Through reflection on my falling outs, I acknowledge I sinned like Lucifer. I was prideful. From these falling out, I learned a valuable lesson that Scripture teaches us. In Matthew 23:12, it states, "Those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted." There's a divine order in basketball. It's called a hierarchy. It consists of players, and coaches are at the top of it. Coaches have nominal power. They have the ability to pull players from games and to put players into games. However, coaches can deliberately put themselves at the bottom of the hierarchy. And if they do this, it's likely because their philosophy is to serve and support their players. This is one of the 7 styles of leadership, servant leadership. It's when the coach puts the need of its players and staff first. The main idea of servant leadership is that by putting the well-being of their players and staff first, they will then perform their best. Jesus is an example of servant leadership. Cleaning the feet of other people was usually reserved for people with low status. However, Jesus, someone with significantly high elevated status, he showed that nothing is beneath him after cleaning the feet of his disciples. He showed humility, and most importantly, he showed that he was there to serve, not to be served. Secondly, when his disciples argued about who was the greatest, in Mark 9:33-37, Jesus asked the disciples what they had been discussing. Jesus then explained to them that in order to be great in the kingdom of heaven, one must be humble and a servant of all. So not only did he show the importance of humility and being of service to others, but he explicitly stated it in Mark 9:33-37. Thirdly, Jesus accepted his crucifixion and sacrificed his life to serve God's plan. When Jesus was on the cross in John 19:30, he said, "It is finished," referring to God's plan for Jesus. Even when something as valuable as one's life was on the line, he still showed that he was there to serve. He was there to do the will of God and to fulfill God's plan. The takeaway from this video is that something like pride, which is a sin, is in opposition to something valuable like servant leadership. If one feels prideful about their looks, their power, their status, then their intentions will be tainted with the belief that they are better than others, and thus they should be treated better. But in servant leadership, the concern isn't about how the leader is being treated. The concern is just how is the leader treating others. Jesus is one of the most impactful, if not arguably the most impactful individual to ever live. What we can learn from him is the power of servant leadership. But also, one of the biggest conflicts ever recorded was Lucifer in heaven, who became prideful and was cast out of heaven as a result of disrupting divine order. So in the context of basketball, are you approaching the game with an attitude where you feel like you are entitled, where you feel you are supposed to be served? Or do you approach it as, how can I best serve my teammates? How can I best serve my coaches? Or how can I best serve my players? To close, remember the verse from Matthew 23:12. Those who exalt themselves will be humbled, but those that humble themselves will be exalted. Keep getting better every day.